Welcome to Inside Pitch. I'm Jeff Gordon, Post Dispatch here with columnist Lynn Worthy. The Cardinals are still in the chase-ish because that last wild card spot in the National League might be in play for some time. But let's talk about a concern right off the top, Lynn. Starting pitching, trying to get from here to October with the guys they have. Matthew Liberatore fighting through. He's going to hit his innings wall at some point. He hit a velocity wall that he's trying to come back from. Obviously, Pallante, too, just trying to get guys out his first full year as a starter. These two guys in particular, for me, trying to get from here to the end of the season, it's going to be a challenge.
Pallante has been interesting because, he's the one that really had most of last season as a starter. So the innings thing isn't the thing that you necessarily jumped out at or would have jumped out at you at the beginning of the season. But the inconsistency has been going on all season with him, just the inconsistent production, the results. So, and then the last time out, as of the time that we're taping, he didn't get through the second inning, and that's just taxing the bullpen, and it's tough to win games that way. That just is looking rough right now. Libby, on the other hand, like you mentioned, the wall that he sort of has hit. It's hearing him talk about it the other night. It's not a thing where he feels fatigued. It's not as though he's wearing down. It's just his stuff has dropped off. It's just not coming out the same way. The velocity has started to drop. So he's just not throwing the ball the way that he has in the past. And to hear Oli Marmol describe it, it's almost as though it's a building back up because he had that break. You would have thought, okay, take a break. He's going to come back ready to go. It's been almost like he took a break and now he's trying to build back up to the sort of velocity and being able to consistently throw for 90, 100 pitches, and now it's more like 70 pitches. And to have two spots in the rotation where you're not really sure what you're going to get in terms of production or innings is going to be tough.
Yeah, and then you add to that, Miles Michaelis is always going to take the ball. He's very durable. He still has good velocity, but his fluctuation has been pretty dramatic. He's had some really good starts and then a lot of 6-plus run starts as well. And you're not really sure. You feel better about him at home than on the road, but yeah, that's a guy you're not really sure what you're going to get. And with the other guys still learning how to become full-time starters, it doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that, Michael McGreevy might be one of the guys that you're not worried about. You say, okay, you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get from him, and he's the guy who's had the fewest starts of anybody in the rotation so far this season, or just career-wise at this point. But yeah, with those question marks, it's hard to figure out exactly how they stay in it. Yet at the same time, the Mets have been so bad that there's a lot of teams still in it for the last wild card spot. As we sit here, I think the Mets have gone something like 2-8 in their last 10, and so that puts a lot of teams, the Reds, the Giants, the Cardinals, all still in the running for that last spot, which puts even more of an emphasis on if you can get some consistent pitching and be in games, then maybe things that you didn't think were possible are now possible.
The fans got excited recently when Yadier Molina made his 2-game stop as a guest coach over the weekend and enjoyed his time. The fans enjoyed seeing him. Oli enjoyed having him around. The catcher sure enjoyed having him around. Begs the question, hey, would Yadi want to get back into this thing on a more regular basis? You visited with Yadi. Doesn't seem like it's on the near-term horizon, but at some point we're going to see Yadier Molina back in baseball on a more regular basis.
Yeah, it seems like it, but at this point it seems like it's probably at least a year away. He was there for those 2 games over the weekend, this past weekend against the Cubs at Busch Stadium, had a great ovation from the fans, interacted with players. Pedro Paez talked about just sort of having Yadi getting on him about different things, making him better as far as just a catcher and controlling the game. But as far as him being a coach, we sort of visited that, a couple of years ago where he was supposed to be an advisor. He's going to be able to be there for spring training and be on the bench in games and different things like that if he wanted to, but it didn't work out because of his time commitments. And he sort of explained a little bit of that this past week. Basically, his son has 1 more year of high school baseball. He wants to be around for that. They moved, I believe, to Texas now for his family to be able to do that and to play high school baseball. And he's also going to be still managing Team Puerto Rico for the World Baseball Classic. So next year sounds like it's going to be about his son's senior year and for him managing, and for Yadi managing Team Puerto Rico. And then after that's when potentially you see more possibility of him getting into coaching, or he'd like to manage at some point.
All right, last thing here on Inside Pitch. Generating runs, consistency with that has been a problem. Some guys getting dinged up, guys that were in downturns, guys who are in upturns. For Ollie, game to game, trying to find that continuity with his offense, trying to find the right matchups. Proved challenging. When you get shut out twice by the Rockies, that's not good.
No, the Rockies, and I think it was right in front of the press box last night. Somebody looked up towards us and pointed out that they're about 58 games below 500. And I was like, oh, is he suggesting they should have won this game? But so to get shut out by that team is a little discouraging, but it sort of enlightens, or it leads to sort of a thought that a couple of guys have expressed. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Daniel Guerrero, our colleague, and myself, Wilson Contreras talked to the two of us about he felt like they were playing up and down to the level of competition, and that was after a good series against, the Dodgers, the Brewers, teams who are, playoff teams, but that they also, played down to competition. And then this week, Mason Wynn expressed the same sentiment, that they're playing down to a team like the Rockies, who's, on pace for one of the worst seasons in baseball, and they play up to teams again like the Dodgers and things like that. So there's inconsistency. Some of that might, maybe you point to the fact that you had some guys in and out of the lineup, and so it's hard for some guys to get into a rhythm. There's also young players who are still trying to find their way. So there's been a lot of inconsistency in the lineup. Some of it may be them playing up to the level of the team that they're facing. And I think that's another thing that you see with young teams, is not being a consistent level themselves, but playing up to who they have on the schedule that day. That's something that you don't get with, championship caliber teams. They play to a consistent level regardless of who they're playing.
The lessons being learned this year, the teaching that's going on. We'll talk more about these things going forward here on Inside Kicks. Thanks for stopping by. Reminder, we got so much extra stuff on the digital edition of the St. Louis Post-Gazette over here at STLtoday.com. For Lynn Worthy, I'm Jeff Gordon. Until next time, see you later.